Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And once again, I'm in a position where I can say, I told you so. Yesterday, we did a story about Brian Souter, about Humza Yousaf, about him basically sucking up and kissing the ring of the busboy. He needs money. Humza Yousaf is in desperate, dire need of lots and lots of Brian Souter's money. There are $1 million in the red at the bank. They are going bankrupt if they don't get it sorted out. And so the stagecoach guy, he's being touched up, basically, for millions and millions of pounds. They want money from him to try and keep the party going. And I said yesterday that that may not happen because he doesn't want the Greens to be part of the government because he disagrees with their views on the more liberal aspects, LGBT rights, things like that. He doesn't agree with the gender bill, all these things. And I said in my video yesterday that this won't please the Greens. They don't like him. They don't want anything to do with him. And so for Humza Yousaf to be going there, bending the knee, kissing the ring and begging for money won't please them at all. Go back and watch the video. I said that he won't like it. And guess what, guys? Guess what? Well, we're going to have a look at this piece because, yet again, I was right. I told you so. Here goes. Now, of course, I don't want to appear all big-headed and everything, but I did call it yesterday. I did say they wouldn't like it. And lo, it came to pass, as we see. The SNP and the Scottish Green row deepens as the LGBT wing blasts Humza Yousaf's courting of the tycoon Brian Souter. We said it would happen, and yet it did. Deary, deary me. The Rainbow Greens released a damning statement about the First Minister's attempts to bring the stagecoach tycoon back into the SNP fold after he stopped donating during Nicola Sturgeon's time in charge. Yet another failure for the Sturge. Old Cranky keeps screwing the pooch on everything she does, doesn't she? Anyway, there's the three of them. What a bunch they are. What an absolute bunch. Although, you see how the power play comes into effect. She has to stand on the top step and then put Jeffrey on the step down so that Jeffrey doesn't look massively tall in comparison. Because Nicola Sturgeon, surprisingly, not as short as you think she might be. I mean, she's short. She's a woman and short naturally. But I always had the impression she was about 5'3", but apparently, no. She just comes across like that. It's a sort of typical carrier type. But anyway, there she is. Anyway, the row between the SNP and the Scottish Greens has deepened after the LGBT wing of the latter party released a damning statement criticising Humza Yousaf's attempt to woo the controversial tycoon Brian Souter. He's not controversial. He's just politically conservative. He's just socially conservative, sorry. He's just a socially conservative man. He's no different from what I would say would be the vast proportion of people in Scotland. He's not extremist. He's not controversial. What's extreme and controversial are the Greens and their policies. But they don't see that as themselves. They see normal people as being extreme because they're so far to the left and so far up their own arses, or frequently other people's. Anyway, the Rainbow Greens claimed that its coalition partners could not be progressive if they sought the businessman's help or funding. By progressive, they mean sexualising children. We previously told how the First Minister was attempting to mend bridges with the stagecoach founder after he stopped donating to the Nationalists when Nicola Sturgeon took over from Alex Salmond. That's because she is mental and he doesn't like her. He hates her. He loathes her. Well, it's easy to do. If you saw my last video, a lot of people loathe her. This coincides with the SNP facing a cash crisis, with its latest accounts showing that the party is 800,000 in the red. That was then. It's got worse since. It's 1 million now. His advisor asked Mr. Souter to help organise a lavish business summit at a posh Edinburgh hotel in the summer. And we have to ask why. And since this is party political and he's trying to touch him up for $1 million for the party, why was it done with the government? This is what I don't understand. Somebody needs to investigate this. Not me. I can't. I don't have access to the things. But somebody in Westminster needs to access this to see why Scottish government funding and money and resources were used for what is a party political event. But hey-ho. Anyway, Mr. Souter is one of Scotland's richest men. He is an avid supporter of independence and donated millions to the SNP when Salmond was in charge. But his socially conservative views clashed with Miss Sturgeon, and when he stopped bankrolling the party when she was in Bute House. And she knew then she'd made a big mistake. Imagine, what's his name? Morgan Freeman. You have to have that Morgan Freeman voice. She's sitting there, and that's the Morgan Freeman voice coming over the top, saying, and that was the moment that she knew she'd fucked up. Because millions he was bankrolling, and then that all stopped. He was their, I think he was their biggest single donor. There was a couple. They won the lottery. They gave a big chunk, but it was a single one-off payment. But he was doing it on a regular sort of tripping the money in kind of thing. Anyway, he stirred up controversy when he campaigned to keep a ban of teaching about LGBT in Scottish schools, which put him on a collision course with the likes of Patrick Harvey. In 2000, he spent more than $1 million of his own money opposing plans by the then Labour-led administration at Holyrood to remove Thatcher-era legislation that prevented councils from promoting homosexuality in schools. Yeah, promoting it shouldn't be promoting it. You acknowledge it, you teach that it exists, but you shouldn't be brainwashing children and pushing them and promoting anything. You shouldn't promote anything. School's place is to educate, not to indoctrinate. That's right. I don't have a problem with gay people. I know gay people. I've gay people in my family. Don't have an issue with that at all. I just want to make that perfectly clear. But it's like anything. Schools are there to educate, not inculcate. They should be there. You teach that it exists. You teach that there are gay people. But you don't want to be teaching techniques to 8-year-olds. And that, I think, is too far. But that's what the Greens are talking about. And when you're sending out 5-year-olds, a questionnaire asking them what they think about when they're touching themselves is, again, not acceptable. And yet that's what the SNP have done. So I think with Brian Souter, I'm not particularly socially conservative, but I do agree with him on certain points, and I think a lot of people do, especially parents. Anyway, the Rainbow Greens, which is an affiliate group of the Greens who are in coalition government with the SNP, released a strongly worded statement, but people will ignore it because they're the Greens and we don't really care, do we? Anyway, they announced this on Thursday night after the news broke about the new relationship with Mr. Yousaf and Mr. Souter. So we did the story yesterday afternoon. They wrote this letter yesterday evening, and here it is. But Brian Souter was one of the biggest supporters of the cruel, vile Section 2A, spending more than £1 million campaigning in favour of it, accepting or seeking support of a prominent backer and financier of regressive and damaging policy, they say shows a clear lack of moral standing. I would suggest being in a party that wants to promote the sexuality of children is lower than the low. But, that's just me. Anyway, they went on to say no progressive party should ever accept the support of individuals like Souter. No, this shows regression, the opposite of what the SNP stands for. Nicola Sturgeon led the SNP for nearly a decade without running to Souter, cap in hand. And as she left £1 million overdraft. Goes to show. I will just say, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And if you are needing Souter's money and Souter says, I'll give it to you, but the Greens are out, what do you think Humza's going to do? Is he going to stand up and grow a pair of balls and say, no, we'll go without the money and go bankrupt? Or will he go and polish the ring before accepting the money and firing the Greens? Or I tell you what he'll probably do, because it's Humza Yousaf after all, he'll lie and say, yeah, I'll get rid of them, give us the money. He'll get the money and then go, yeah, sucker, and keep the Greens in power. Because, you can't trust a word he says. Anyway, a quote from Mr. Harvey was then utilised from back in February 2011 when he was not on a ministerial salary, and he said it's no wonder that this economically and socialist conservative administration has such an appeal for a millionaire with attitudes to gay Scots, which should have gone out with John Knox. The message this sends out is that the SNP is for sale to the highest bidder. Of course it is. It always has been. He who pays, plays. This is it. This is on the same day they unveiled this donation. They're also on record opposing equal marriage. Last time he gave them this much money, a long-standing commitment to improve bus services mysteriously disappeared from the SNP manifesto. I wonder what he wants this time. Well, of course, and that's why everyone gives money to political parties. You buy the services. That's how it works in the world. If you don't like it, fine, change it. But you can't sit and bitch about it. Anyway, no Scottish Greens MSPs have spoken publicly about Mr. Souter's new relationship with the SNP, yet they have all been approached for a comment. A Scottish Government spokesman said, ministers routinely engage with a wide range of business leaders as part of a normal part of government. That is a bullshit way of saying we're not talking about this because we just need his money and then we'll deal with the fallout and problems later. But I said it. There we are. I said it. I was right. I knew this would come, although I noticed they're not so angry that they're picking up their bags and walking out. Souter can do what he likes, the SNP can do what they likes, the Greens won't walk because ka-ching, money talks. Coming up. I do have a knack, don't I, of seeing one news story and realising it will lead to another. That's all I'm going to say on that. There's a couple of things that's happened. A couple of times that's happened, but never so quickly. I mean, this was literally 24 hours. I said yesterday this will happen. What do you do? Well, there we go. So the Greens still in power because they won't walk. Souter will probably pay them money. They'll get out of jail free card because of Souter. But will Souter insist not on them walking, but on Humza firing them? That is the only thing that can happen. If they want his money, they're going to have to get rid of the Greens. Will they do it? Who knows? I don't know if he's got the balls. I really don't. I don't think he has. I don't think he's got the balls to fire them after having nailed his colours to the mast so strongly. It would make him look weak and divisive. He already does, so I don't see what he's worried about. But it's either that or the SNP goes bankrupt. So, which tune do you sing? Oh well, stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do pay attention. Do please subscribe. More truth every day. So do please subscribe if you haven't already. And I will speak to you later. Bye.